Okay, it looks a little bit the way it does because I have to explain a few things. What I want to explain is like something like a dream that I had is where I saw Earth. There's a time axis also. There's one going up and there's one going sideways. That entire construct is Earth is in this box. It's one plane of existence, okay? That plane of existence is a cube, and within that cube is a circle. I've seen that. Then I've seen Earth as a particle. But I also seen Earth as a waveform. What does that explain to us? The Earth is flat, and it's not. So it's flat, and it's round. How that connects, that this becomes, this has to do with the way our consciousness, that's like a base regulator of a main program, like a computer runs a computer chip and you have the operating system running on that chip, and the chip is built according to the operating system, and that's what I want to actually explain in the theory. See, this time axis basically say this is Earth, then these are other dimensions. Also want to break down that to me UFOs are nothing but dimensional travelers and time travelers. They are not distance travelers from distant star systems. They come from different planes of existence. All of them. I have a few explanations why that is. So, what I want to break down to you is what I've seen in the dream. Either my, how psychology would say, my subconscious is concoct theoretical aspects together and displays it in a way that is pleasing to me. Here's something very, very important what people need to learn to understand, and I will, illustrate it in the following. You have that this be our baseline, okay? Open your mind for hyperdimension. This is the duat. This is where the collective exists. Okay? This is where time density moves. Now also know this, time density was different before, you can say June 3rd, 2016. Okay? Let's assume we deduct the leap years from the Mayan calendar, and our 2012 becomes June 3rd. Okay? So, according to Terence McKenna's timeline measurement, is he measured the time density till 2012. Well, that's a conscious contract or construct, but also what does that mean? And my take on it. He said that time was very dense, like this, and very high level, and then it dropped to 0, 2012. So the original old paradigm time density that we used to have, we're not having no longer. Okay, that also means we're thinking different. That's why different inventions are coming up. I mean, you have to understand. Do you think it's a coincidence that last month the gravitational waves were measured? A system, a laser system that, and I'll draw that out for you because everything has a connection. It has to do with conscious and conscious awareness and the allowance to be aware of something. Meaning, like say, one day you can go into the field and you find diamonds, and the next day you go into the field and there's nothing there. That has to do with time allowance and dimensional awareness and allowance and finding those things. You remember what they said? How they found gravitational waves. They had a laser sent out to mirrors, and the laser would come back. Hope I'm doing this right. So when they realized this, when the laser came back and they measured, they would know the distance between the mirror and where the laser was sent. This construct could look like this, or it could look like this, you know, depending on what your formula is, you know. So you basically, I make it real simple, and you have to watch that again when they explain that. They have to probably correct that. Is, I'm just saying here, you have point A, he's sending out a laser to a mirror, okay? And then you have point B. And then you measure how long does it take for the laser to come back. And somewhere down the line, science has found out if a gravitational wave goes through here, there's a time delay. That will show up in your software. When that glitch shows up, you have a gravitational wave. So my theory too is how they found that is, let's say they had that thing running for 10 years. Nothing ever came up. Does that mean gravitational waves were not running through this? Well, yes, they were, but your brain couldn't fathom that this is the case. So since we have reached a new timeline and a new paradigm of accessibility of data, and us having the allowance in our brain, we're connected to certain templates to form different ideas now and mergers. Now we're allowed to find that stuff. So I'll give to you something that I've seen, and I say when we hack that code, I mean, maybe some already have that, or breakaway civilizations like Corey Good said they have that. But for us here, okay, this is what I see. Now watch. This is Earth. This is the dualistic plane of existence on Earth. Okay? Jose Arguelles described something like the noosphere. These are light spectrums. Okay? Let's say this is the fallen spectrum. This is the ascended. Okay? Fallen. Let me explain to you what we're doing here. Since this is the duat, okay? Understand that in this spectrum of consciousness, everything that's being developed in an old paradigm will have the opposite force against it. Meaning everything that we have built here, from consumer electronics to fossil fuel driven cars, everything that I say, and maybe in 50 years they will say this dude was right, but hear me out. Everything we do is based on time, based on a construct that's consuming, and you have the equal force working against it. Also gravity. Not gravitational waves. They're not really subject to this. They are influenced by it, but we have to understand we can influence them as well. So, nuclear power. Okay? Crappy nuclear logo. Is here. Frequency modulation is here. Microwave is here. Ultra high bandwidth is here. VHF, UHF is here. Electromagnetic frequency based on a duat is here. Fuel, gas, electricity. These are all non-zero field energies that we base our stuff on, that have basically, let me see, the opposite working against it when you do that. And there's no way around it when you're stuck in that realm, or when you access that realm. Meaning nuclear power has what? Decay as a side effect. And I don't care whatever new nuclear power, even the Large Hadron Collider is subject to this here. You smash molecules in order to explain the Big Bang in a collider. So you're destroying universes and you're creating dualistic principles. So every nuclear explosion that is created on this plane enforces this plane. Okay? And that's my theory. I have no proof. Science can line up. This is what I feel. I'm talking about the feel. This is it's called the fuzzy logic, feel science. From what I know, every time somebody gets killed or something is enforced that causes a destruction, it enforces this layer. Earth is moving through this here, basically, like a plane that's connected so your conscious can even fathom that you're walking that plane. It's round and it's not. But that's a whole other story of the flat earth theory. Then you have Earth here, moving on up, moving through these layers. So now, a little bit of problem we have with Earth and the Anunnaki and programming is, now imagine, and let's be playful with it, take it with a grain of salt, and let nobody trip yet. No mushrooms involved here. Earth has passed to this plane by June 3rd, completely. Like the Mayans would say, if this is the 2060, it's 26,000 and something thingy where Earth was here, going through the shit, basically, the Kali Yuga, and when we make this marker here, the only way is up. The only way is bliss. Dimension of the blissed, dimension of the blessed. I'm like in and out the picture, forgive me because I don't have enough space here. So now, we are going this way. This would be something like an apex of this node. This is the apex of coming out of this here. So let's say that the cycle basically is like this and like this. And Earth would be here. Okay? But it's almost the same as this being in here. Ooh, I gotta really control my brain. There's so much stuff coming in. Okay. Explain this to you. So, we believe or strongly feel that in order to stabilize fields in the lower planes, to make them holy, our ancestors, our ancient ancestors, built pyramids, gold-coated them, had the waterways in a holy way connecting them, no digging for wells, calling the water from the ground. Check a video on a guy in Illinois who built a golden pyramid and who has a well in his house now, automatically when you do that. Guy, Illinois, pyramid house, gold-coated. Check the storyline. Phenomenal. Should have 90 million views, has maybe 20,000. We're still sleeping. So, these pyramids here, channeled in or still channeling in particular energy from the upper realms, okay, stabilizing this field. The Garden Eden was such a place where this was stabilized. And this also, I will explain what I'm attempting to do, and I'm going to try to really pack this in like 30 minutes so you get the concept. So, as I explained, in the fallen time grid, or the Nephilim time grid, also negative entities known as archons from the underworld, they're not from the upper realms, underworld, artificial intelligence, have grid points and anchor points that they set up to keep the consciousness trapped in. They only have access from here. It's like a programming access as in a negative programmer, which also makes time and space pretty phenomenal for what I'm about to share with you. These are these cases where they can say make believe. If I had it on video, I'll show it to you. I will build a paranormal station where this is actually shown, what I'm about to explain to you. So I believe that UFOs from the upper realms are time travelers. They don't travel distance from star systems. We gotta stop thinking box. This is 3D and there's nothing else. Also check Stan Romanek's video how he explains there are access points in this dimension, and these dudes go here and then they fly in and say here's the Orion belt, it's a gate. when they're in our solar system. They're coming from elsewhere. They're ultra-dimensional, multi-dimensional. So they can actually do here what they want, but there are also rules and regulations because it can be disastrous. It's not like Star Trek when they say, the law of non-interference, you're not supposed to interfere. I mean, we've been messed with and meddled with like, it's a mess. It's a zoo here, okay? The energy in the fallen sector or the memory to that is very, very chaotic. So hence, it is not to my surprise that if you have a car, that's where my technology comes in, that consumes fuel, cannot be efficient because you have the fuel here, but then you have the opposite force of the dualistic principle of that plane that says when you need fuel here, you need decay and chaos here, and that eats itself up. It's non-sustainable because you got to constantly feed it. What does that mean? That this layer here is a parasitic construct. It needs to be fed all the time because it's not sustainable. That's the grid that fell. That also has to do with fallen genes or recessive genes, when the dominant gene actually lives on. It's the fallen sector, fallen genes, fallen race, Nephilim era. If you want to get into genetically how we were designed, go into read the Terra papers, Secrets of Dark Stars, Eden by Anton Parks. You can go deeper than the 12th planet. It's much deeper, much more vast, the storyline. So, electricity, you have a battery, okay? I'm not breaking down chemically how a battery works, I'm just giving you the principle. The battery has a certain charge. There are certain chemicals in the battery that enable that, acidic and alkaline, and the battery over time discharges in that time wave. Well, the Russians have tested what happens with batteries if you put them in a pyramid. Well, the discharge is slowed down. Isn't that interesting? So, if you introduce that realm to this realm, the discharge of a battery is slowed down. Also, fuel consumption that has to do with highly photonic activity. Like a lot of light, a lot of negative ions flying in this sector, yeah? That gives a very, very good connection to the next realm, which I'm not going to break down what that is. That's where we are from. We are future beings. We're coming from the future. We're visiting ourselves to fix this template because somewhere down the line in this creation, as we created ourselves from the source, that puts the thing of God in perspective. You can't pray to an external, wrathful, vengeful God that threatens you and he will kill in order to achieve enlightenment. It's pretty clear. It's very human. It's very... somebody's manipulating you. Source doesn't interfere. Source doesn't have any gender. And it's not about gender. It's genderless. It is an energy source of a unified field that actually begins to repair. So you heard the fairy tales about, somebody ending up in a field. They were sick. And they come back out healed. So let's say the famous fairy ring that David Wilcock describes. The fairy ring has an ultimate connection to the upper realm. That's where you find the gnomes, the ships, the fairies, the mermaids. It's interdimensional. You will never capture a mermaid or a merbeing unless it's, or a Sasquatch, physically manifest in this realm. That's why you'll never catch them or see them. Also, we have yet to develop a technology that actually makes this visible. Like cameras do not work up here. Don't even try. If they work, then that means the ship sends a signal to your camera, and that's just what I ask questions, I get these answers, and they put this shield around this. So that means the camera can exist in that realm for a minute. And there's a translation that's allowed. And that's what's allowed to be translated into this realm. But you can't bring this realm to this realm. You need to bring this realm to this realm. Also know this, without light, no shadow. Direct light without interference. See here? My hand is the interference. So light hitting it, I'm casting a shadow. Direct light, no shadow. So let's say that's the information box. It has this distortion field that's on Earth that we'll have to go through, because the old paradigm is still locked and linked to this old distortion field, believing that there is no magic. Yes, I agree with Giorgio Tsoukalos. There is no such thing as magic. There is esoteric, elemental, scientific knowledge that comes from the occult, the invisible, into the visible. But you need to be like Archimedes or Merlin to have access to that. So know this. Let's say you have magnets running a magnetic generator. Well, they run for what, let's say, if you have established to build a Tesla generator, well, that exchange energy will probably run for 400 years if you're lucky. There's one in the Swiss Alps that keeps running, and it's also susceptible to non-believers. Let's say if you have thousands and thousands of people that don't believe that this exists, guess what happens to the generator? It stops. It's been reported, there's been many cases about that the observer influences a machine. So now, what we're attempting to do is to build machines that are not so weak anymore in the field, in their own projection field of their own existence, that you have, let's say, that's like my dream, a power cell. I want to call it the Ra cell. And this is just for those who really want to get into the nitty-gritty of the science. A thing that creates gravitational waves, scalar waves, and source field energy that links to the upper realm, all the way up, and stabilizes the field. That means if that's big enough, engines will stop running. Nothing of the natural kind works. So what we have to learn as this new field, which is this here, that's being introduced to Earth, comes in, we have to change our technology. Meaning that soon you'll have technology like a regular tube TV will not run anymore, or has to run in an environment where it's made possible for it to run. So when we hack the code of gravitational waves, which go through the universe like this, and they're in a grid form and they're pulsing, if you know how to access those waves, time travel, dimensional travel, things can be possible that will blow your mind. So here's something that for me that's not even so far-fetched, because I leave my mind open. I will come back to the cell in a minute. So if you overwhelm regular technology with the light that's in this sector, stuff stops working. Well, you have regular UFO cases, engines fail, radio flips, electricity, nuclear power plants shut down. This is higher energy. Never ever lower energy. Never ever governmental craft. This cannot allow the negative aspect to run. This is a unified field where everything runs. Endless. Once you can tap into it. Once you have the mind to actually build equipment that can run this. So, where was I? 1,000 light years a nanosecond. So, when we build cities in this field, stabilizing the energy, so our mind can also decompress, meaning when you're in this field, you get smarter. Your IQ goes up because you're beginning to align to a higher structure. Let this be gold as the perfect fractal, the Fibonacci sequence, your brain hemispheres. So places like Sedona are naturally already linked to it, but they a little bit chaotic because the structures that are in the ethers, as they say that the cities of light, they're not fully anchored yet because of the distortion field of the old consciousness that is here. This is just an example. Let's say Sedona is like a little bit of a subwoofer for the mind of God or the mind of the collective. So you have vortexes going this way, you have vortexes going that way, inward, outward, big, small. It's very, you manifest, you heal, everything very quick and very wow, and it's like, oh my God, okay, it's like an 11-year-old in a Lamborghini. So it's a, people have to still understand this is a holy place. So what this place needs, like any other place, a structure needs to be set up outside, a grid, that stabilizes this entire spectrum. Once that is achieved, ships will no longer be invisible. They will be as clear as day. Then we will have something like vibrational matching. People will coming into the understanding, okay, I'm not alone, I have ancestors. Your total recall comes back. You know, science has just found out, and I have to like smile a little bit, that DNA actually transfers information from your ancestors. So if I was Egyptian 1,000 lifetimes ago, guess what? It's still in my DNA and it's still being translated. And if I'm in this field, guess what? I can tap into my own Akashic field, which is important for me to find my orientation in that field. Hope that makes sense. So, what I'm already doing is like, if I bring part of that light field with Arcturian light coding into a cell, I call it the Ra cell, you begin to create a reality that is higher dimensional. You cannot misuse these devices. I also have this in my keys. When you wear the key with the 22 templates on your body, you're aligning yourself to the higher field, meaning your cells will automatically get in gear and fix themselves. But you need to hit the etherical template first before anything can manifest. So the Ra cell, as in small, as a keychain, or an industrial size, which is like this big, you see them in my store, is a generator, very powerful, that helps you to create divine reality. And this is what this planet needs. And when you create divine reality, you're ushering this in. And this beats any book you've ever read, any religion you've ever known. Everything is allowed, because when you come into knowledge of self, everything will make sense to you automatically. And then explaining is no longer needed, and you also leave the old era of Babylon. The telepathic link was severed in Babel when the tower was crushed, when people were trying to build a Shem, which was the access to a ship. The beings that were in control of that sector didn't want you in outer space, and it wasn't God. It was certain beings that posed as such. Misuse and manipulation again. We're waking up from that. We are the children of Ea. We are the tribe of Easu. That's where Yeshua comes from. And Easu means nothing as no, like galactic self. Knowing, knowledge of self. Easu. So, and when you are here, your telepathic link between your kind is re-established. You will reconnect to your people, reconnect to your ancestors, and it'll be peaceful. It'll be explained. You will have access to mental archives within yourself that you never had before. I've tested it. There's one chamber in the world that's based on that principle in Bavaria that I sat in, and it felt like I'm tripping but stabilized. I was bombarded with billions of negative ions and photons at the same time through a vacuum system, which I can also rebuild. I know how to set it up. So we will set that up here, and that's even, to prove anything is not required, watch my video Rocky Origins. I'll show you mummified cheese that has been there for 7 months. It only mummifies. Bacteria can't exist here, parasites can't exist here. Stuff stops rotting. So let's say with the energy that I'm getting from there, see, I'm already leaning on this energy, and you can check that if you find any description that has something to do with biophotonic emission. Is 10 to the 23rd is what my nanomaterial is charged with. I'm using stainless steel to accelerate photons outward. The Russians have proven that. You can read on photons, biophotonic emissions. There are 2 institutes that actually can measure that your cell emits light. Also your eyes, you receive and you send light. So there's a lot going on that we can learn here. And I'm going to wrap this up real quick. Is the negative side of light is here, where nuclear power, frequency modulation, electromagnetic frequency is the negative side of light. The opposite side of that light spectrum is here. 10 to the 23rd is in the plus. Microwave and nuclear power are minus. These are negative light structures. EMF from your phone, guess what? If you don't have any sticker on your phone, and I sell stickers, many people do, and you have to check your resonance and get into feeling. You need to protect the ormus that is in your head. That's why I also take ormus and also sell that. Because a negative electromagnetic frequency pushes the ormus out of your cerebellum. That the accessibility to your psyche is compromised. Also, the expansion of your pineal gland is compromised in that field all day, every day. You're living in a house, or let's say you're in Walmart or wherever for over 2 hours. You're being bombarded with 60 hertz. What it does to the actual, you can say, Schumann resonance is this. This is your human body. This is the light body. Here's your heart. Okay? This is when the light travels unhindered and you can open up. But in your house, the Schumann resonance cuts you here. 60 hertz is right here. So find a way to biohack your home to get the 60 hertz out of your system and still have functioning equipment, because we need to biohack our systems, because this is where we're going. This is where the mind is going. This is where the human race is going. I hope you follow. So I'm basically, also what I can do with the Ra cell is, like, say you have a river bed that's funky, or a well, we can bring the well back. And that's scientific fact. That's not voodoo. Some people say, yeah, it's placebo and make-believe, and if I believe it, it's to be true. You can't influence that. If you have, let's say, a withered tree, you put a pebble of the size of 0.8 millimeters of silica quartz glass, like quartz crystal, in the ground, and your tree comes back after 2 weeks. You can do that with any plant. Soon I will get these pebbles for agricultural experiments and for sale, that people can test it at home. You can do that with milk. Anybody can do that, and your belief system is not required, because it is what is. Meaning, regular milk, 1 liter, put them in a bowl, let it sit there. After 3 days, what happens? Naturally, it rots. It goes to shits, it gets fungal, it starts to smell, it gets green, and it gets really ugly. Well, here's this what looks like miracle, but it's science. There's no such thing as magic. Magic is the unexplainable. Magic is actually a word for laws of life, or laws of life. So know this, it's science. You put the pebble in 1 liter of milk, which we know is bad, it's processed, it's homogenized, it's cooked, it's pasteurized, it's everything stripped that can be bio-vital accessibility for your body. Enhanced, it's not. You put that pebble in there, after 3 to 4 days, this turns to yogurt. It doesn't rot. You have probiotics, and the bio-vital accessibility is increased by 200%. I have to work on papers from Bavaria that I want to certify, translate, that you can see these experiments are real. This is real science. This is the new science, and this is the new paradigm, and I hope you have more of an understanding now of what, fallen sector, ascended sector, and how this fallen one actually gets erased and cleared up as you realize when you change your life with different decisions and what you do. And that will lead also to another video when I talk about what decisions do and what they define, what that actually explains. Yeah, that's it. Namaste, and I catch you most definitely on the flip side. Peace.